3 nights before Christmas, I found 244 people hanging from a tree inside a limestone cave. They were dolls made of sticks and gray cloth, but every one of them had a face I knew. On a stone table beneath the tree lay a 245th doll. It was unfinished, no eyes, no mouth, but my daughter's yellow hair ribbon had already been tied around its throat. When I picked it up, all 244 hanging figures turned their heads toward me. My name is Howard Ellis. Back then I was a deputy sheriff in Briar Hollow, West Virginia. We had 247 residents if you counted old Mr. Vale, who lived beyond the quarry and threatened census workers with a shovel. 6 strangers arrived at the beginning of December. They rented the Mercer farmhouse and said they had been hired to repair storm damage on the old service road. Nobody checked. They were useful, polite, and so eager to help that within a week the town had stopped treating them like strangers. They fixed the church roof. They carried groceries for the elderly. They built new swings behind the school. One of them was named Eli. He was thin, soft-spoken, and had a habit of staring at people as if he were trying to remember their faces. My 8-year-old daughter, Lucy, liked him because he could carve animals from scraps of wood. He gave her a little deer with 4 legs so delicate I could have snapped them between my fingers. I threw it in the stove after I found the cave. The disappearances began 2 weeks after the men arrived. Not people, small things. Mrs. Coyle lost the wedding ring she had kept in a kitchen drawer since her husband died. The school janitor lost his first paycheck, which he had framed. A boy lost a baby tooth his mother kept in a matchbox. Nobody reported cash or jewelry missing unless the object had belonged to them for years. It felt wrong but not criminal enough to frighten anyone. People joked that Briar Hollow had a sentimental burglar. Then Lucy told me Eli had been in her bedroom. She said it over breakfast as if she were telling me about a dream. He had stood at the foot of her bed the night before and asked which of her ribbons her father would recognize in the dark. My wife dropped her coffee. I ran upstairs. The window was locked. There were no footprints outside. The yellow ribbon Lucy wore in every school photograph was gone from her dresser. I drove to the Mercer farmhouse with my pistol on the seat beside me. The front door stood open. The house was warm, but there was no fire and no furniture. It smelled of wet branches and something sweet that had begun to rot. In the dining room, 247 wooden nameplates covered a long table. Most had been turned face down. I flipped over several and found the names of people who had lost something. Mrs. Coyle, the janitor, the boy with the tooth. Only 3 plates remained upright. Anna Ellis, Howard Ellis, Lucy Ellis. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped my radio. Eli spoke behind me. You came 3 nights early. I turned with my gun raised. He did not look surprised. He looked disappointed, like a man whose child had found hidden presents before Christmas. I pushed the barrel against his cheek and made him tell me where Lucy's ribbon was. He said he could show me, but I had to promise not to damage anything. I promised. I was lying. He led me through the quarry to a crack in the limestone. We went so deep that my radio died and the cold began to hurt my teeth. Then the passage opened into a chamber large enough to hold the church. The thing in the center was shaped like a Christmas tree, but it had no needles. It was 15 feet of black timber lashed together with hair, wire, and strips of clothing. Human figures hung from every branch. Some wore buttons I recognized. One had Mrs. Coyle's ring buried in its chest. Another had a baby tooth pushed into its mouth. Their cloth faces were crude, but there was no mistaking them. Every figure looked like someone from Briar Hollow. The unfinished one on the table was Lucy. I knew before I saw the ribbon. Eli had made the left leg slightly shorter. Lucy had been born that way. I grabbed the doll. The branches above me creaked. 244 heads turned at once. Their little wooden joints clicked through the cave like insects. I could not breathe. I wanted to shoot Eli, burn the tree, and carry Lucy out of town before sunrise. I remember screaming at him, asking what they were building. "A tree," he said. "What is it for?" "The same thing yours is for. Someone is coming." He nodded toward the hanging bodies. "You bring a dead tree into your home. You cover it with little people, animals, and houses. You put lights on it so a visitor can find you in the dark. This is almost the same." "Almost? You are not the ones celebrating. You are the ornaments." I asked him what would happen when the last figure was hung. Eli looked up into the darkness above the tree. "It will bend down and admire the town." "What is it? Do the ornaments on your tree know who owns the house?" That answer frightened me more than any name could have. I pulled Lucy's ribbon from the unfinished figure. The doll folded inward with a dry sigh. At the same moment, somewhere far above us, I heard my daughter scream through the dead radio. I reached for the nearest completed figure, intending to tear them all down. Eli grabbed my wrist. "If you break an ornament, you break the thing it represents." I hit him and pulled anyway. One twig foot snapped. My radio crackled back to life. The dispatcher was crying. Mrs. Coyle had just been found on her kitchen floor. Her ankle had twisted completely backward without a fall. I let go. That was their trap. They had tied every person in Briar Hollow to the tree. We could not finish it and we could not destroy it. I dragged Eli out at gunpoint and called every officer in the county. The other 5 men surrendered without resistance. State investigators sealed the cave. One technician cut the palm of a figure to test Eli's claim. A sleeping man 6 miles away opened the same wound on his hand. After that, nobody touched the tree again. The cave remained sealed. The 244 finished figures stayed on the wooden tree. Lucy's unfinished figure and her ribbon were locked in the sheriff's evidence room 20 miles away. 3 nights later, at 2:13 on Christmas morning, every light in Briar Hollow went out. I had not slept since the cave. Anna and Lucy were upstairs. I sat alone in the living room with my pistol, watching our Christmas tree. It began to tremble although the windows were closed. Then every ornament slowly turned toward the living room window. Something new was hanging from the lowest branch. It was a small figure made from sticks and gray cloth. One leg was shorter than the other. It had Lucy's yellow ribbon around its throat and a green metal hook driven through its head. 2 empty hooks hung beside it. I raised my pistol, but I could not pull the trigger. I had already seen what happened when one of those figures was damaged. Outside, the stars began disappearing in rows, not behind clouds. One row vanished, then another, as if something enormous were lowering its face over Briar Hollow and blocking the sky. The roof groaned under a weight that had not touched it yet. Upstairs, I heard Anna wake Lucy. I heard my daughter ask why the room had gone dark. Then Lucy's voice spoke again. This time it came from directly behind me, close enough that I felt its breath against my neck. "Dad, you hung me too low. You won't see me from there."